Hello, everyone. Welcome to the dark side. I'm JVL here with my friend, the mistress of despair, A.B. Stoddard of the Bulwark. I start these shows by saying everything is terrible, but they're not. Things are good. This makes me very anxious. I don't like it when things are good, but I'm also not going to pretend that they aren't. They are. And so, A.B., some housekeeping. This show is going on hiatus after this week because we have to wait for everything to go to shit again. Oh, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding. But we will be taking 1 week off, I think, in the future. A.B., you have a piece today up on the Bulwark, the headline of which is, what is it? This was the worst week of Donald Trump's life or something like that. Share with the class, if you don't mind, because it's delicious. And again, things are good.
Yes.
Let's just luxuriate in that for a minute.
I think that the audience should know that you and I enjoy feeling good when it's good to feel good, but we get anxious because we know it doesn't last. Impermanence is very powerful. Yeah. What's interesting about this is Trump's worst week ever. The argument that I'm making is that there are ways of looking at this. There are weeks that we think are we've seen weeks in his political career when we've said, he's done. This is the worst thing ever. That he hasn't cared about. January 6th is at the top of that list. It just is going to pass. His pathologies don't allow him to believe he's made any permanent error. He moves on. This is stuff that is different. The whole trajectory of the election has changed. It doesn't mean that Harris will win. It means that it's a new campaign and he has to sort of start over. Even though he should have been prepared for this, he's going through some things. He's a little emotional. And there was this wonderful sort of confluence, shitstorm, if you will, of good things happening for Harris while bad things were also happening for Trump, like what's going on with JD Vance. So everyone can read and go through all the details. I do argue in there was a week in early October of 2016 when the Access Hollywood tape was leaked. And you could argue that was the worst. People were abandoning ship, saying that they couldn't campaign with him, couldn't support him, no longer endorsed him. But he wasn't in a position where he had to win that election to stay out of prison. And he is now. And he knows what's different about last week, JVL's, he knows it was his worst week ever. So it's just he backed out of a debate. He's being questioned about his VP pick. He's just hating it.
Yeah. It was a bad week for him along vectors that he cares about. So like Kamala Harris raised $200 million in 6 days. 7 days. That is a number that means something to him. She's dominating earned media, right? Is she absolutely dominant on earned media? She's drawing big crowds. She looks good on television. These are all the things that Trump's lizard brain registers in a way that, like criminal liability or that, like he understands that those, some judge is going to put him in jail, right? Good luck. Like there are ways out of that. He understands that, he's a populist. He's a demagogue. He understands how to shape those things. This represents him losing control of those demagogic control knobs, right? And I think that's what's scary to him is that he feels like, wait a minute, my hands aren't on the stick right now. And she is becoming a cultural figure, a figure of cultural import, which when you're the populist demagogue, like that's your stock and trade. That's being threatened where you're strongest.
He has not been in the spotlight. He has not lost the spotlight since he came down the escalator.
Yes.
This is not great for him.
Her time in the spotlight isn't really tied to him. That's the other thing, right? She's very good when she's attacking him, but her thing is just, I am Kamala Harris and this is the future. And that's Trump independent, right? He's then stuck grasping to try to get some attention. And he's good at that traditionally, but he hasn't had to do it in a long time. He just dominates. He understands that. He is P.T. Barnum.
And he knows that people that were not going to come out and vote against him by casting a ballot for Joe Biden are now going to come out and vote for Kamala Harris just because of what you said, because she just
Yeah.
is separately from him. She's the future. She's tomorrow. She's a change agent. That it must, can you imagine how much that rattles him? Because, they knew how to handle the anti-Trump. And then the idea that there were voters out there that were not upset enough about Donald Trump to protest him are now excited, giving money, door knocking, sharing on social media. That's just a huge threat. It's a new electoral force.
And the other thing is, I think he understands that time is short, right? It's hard to turn things around. And I mean, Harris turned everything around overnight.
Yeah.
The combination of Biden and Harris turned everything around overnight. And once these things start moving downhill, it's hard to, look, you can stop them, but there isn't going to be any economic news that's going to help him. Growth continues to be very strong. We're probably going to get a rate cut before the election. She's just going to keep getting good economic news over, every 4 weeks from here on out. And so I guess he can hope for a war with Hezbollah, but otherwise he's then hoping for external events. She's got a convention coming, right? He is stuck defending stories about whether or not he wants to dump his VP pick, which I don't think he's going to. But again, when people are asking you, it's like with Biden, right? Are you going to drop out? Well, that's bad. If people are asking if you're going to drop out, then you should probably drop out. If people are asking if you're going to replace your VP pick after 9 days or whatever it is, then it means that something's gone very wrong for you.
I just couldn't have happened to a worse guy.
Yeah. Well, that's, one of my sayings, A.B., is that life's greatest delicacy is watching bad things happen to bad people.
It is.
There's nothing better. It's so much better even than watching good things happen to good people. And that's great. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
You love seeing the nun who you've always enjoyed win the lottery. It's wonderful. It's great. Watching JD Vance get his chestnuts roasted has been amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that. The world has decided, and I guess this is really the Harris campaign has decided, and the rest of the world has just decided they're going to go with it, that they're just going to hit JD Vance as weird. And they're going to try to paint the entire Trump-Vance ticket as weird. And so we've had the Diet Mountain Dew incident. We've had the fake news, but, fake news is still out there about the couch stuff. There's the dolphin stuff. There's the my wife isn't white, but I love her. Just a lot of things which make JD Vance look more like a guy who does book clubs for the Claremont Institute and spends his time with Mencius Moldbug and Bronze Age pervert, who are the people who he's listed as his intellectual progenitors. It makes him look like the type of guy who says that the Bronze Age pervert is his great intellectual forebear. What do you think? I mean, first of all, yes, fair or not fair, but
so it's
second,
so interesting.
Effective or ineffective?
So my mind is completely open after watching everything that Kamala Harris did, except for her dancing, which I think she's a great dancer. But whatever her word salads and her coconut tree and all that, it's sort of a delivery, right? It's not even really ever what she's saying, but all her memes suddenly turn upside down and start working for her overnight. After that, I'm open to anything. So I do think that it's already effective in that Trump and JD don't know what to do with it. So last night, Trump, Truth Socials, I am not weird, DJT, and the date. And then Vance is tweeting, JD Vance is weird over, I don't know, clips of Kamala Harris and Democrats being weird, picture of her with some trans person that's very tall and large in a flamboyant costume, whatever. So he doesn't really know what to do with it. Vivek Ramaswamy is trying to help him out on Twitter and saying it's not really fair.
which is not the guy you want helping you out to say that you're not weird. So right? I mean, there are things that you don't. This is like having Jeffrey Dahmer defend you against being in charges of being a cannibal. Right. You don't want to say, hey, Jeff, let somebody else carry that message for me, please.
So the blow has landed in that they don't know how. It bothers them, and they don't know how to push back. So in that way, I guess it has been effective. I did watch. I hope that Governor Shapiro is chosen to be the VP, but I would be happy with Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. I hope no matter what happens in this decision, people will go back and watch Tim Walz talking about this. He's been big on how weird they are. And he has great delivery about it. He's like, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. But they're also really weird. Are we afraid of weird? No. We're creeped out, but we're not afraid. And it's like a subtle way of making fun without saying that they're evil and speaking in dramatic, hyperbolic terms about the threat to democracy, which Democrats have decided doesn't really poll well enough to be a major driving theme, even though we believe that it is. So anyway, I think that it is kind of, I think it's going to be effective because it's already gotten under their skin.
Yeah. And also because JD Vance can't stop. Right. I mean, he just can't help himself. We've gone from the childless cat lady thing where instead of diffusing it, he went and I apologize to cats for it. He's like doubling down on it like an insane person. And, he's trying to run away from his 100% pro-life. I want to see abortion banned nationally the problem is when you're an inauthentic weirdo, charges of being an inauthentic weirdo are hard to stave off, right? This is his soft underbelly. And he's utterly charmless. I was worried that he was going to be able to use that baby face and his smarts and his gift of, a silver tongue to get out there and speak to the middle of the electorate. And that he was going to be talking to suburban moms who don't want to vote for Trump, saying, we just want peace and prosperity. We just want to bring the country together. And I was really afraid that would be quite effective. No, he's doubling down on MAGA and the problem with how, only parents should be elevated in society and all the crap that you just mentioned. He's really bad at this. So I knew this because I know guys like him. And guys like JD Vance, they are fantastic in a room with a single person who is powerful and older than them and getting in front of that guy and just mirroring everything back to them. And they're really, really good at one-on-one boss pleasing, right? Getting in front of the guy who they've got to, I don't want to make you spit your things out, but he knows what he has to do there. Yes. But in front of normal people, utterly lost. And did you see that New York Times piece by his former friend over the weekend? Really an interesting read. Everyone should read that. And maybe we can put it in the show notes, Sebastian, but piece by a former Yale Law School classmate and friend of his who is trans and just opened up their text messages. And man, what a D-bag this guy is. Yeah. I mean, I just don't know other, I understand politicians are politicians. They are what they are. Just as a human being.
It's also so delicious, JVL, garbage. Because the problems it opens up, not only that he, like you said, it's kind of late to turn not only the trajectory of the campaign around, but to turn the Vance narrative around. He doesn't have 9 months. He has 15 weeks. And the internal strife it causes is so delicious. Tucker told Trump, Don Jr. and Eric freaked out when Trump was considering Burgum and or Rubio. And they freak out and they say, you have to go with JD and you got to go, bro. And then Tucker says, seriously, whatever he calls him. The deep state wants you to pick someone normal because then they'll take you out because they want to take the party back. And they want Rubio to be president. And so your life is in danger, he says, before the actual attempted assassination on Trump. And so you have to pick JD Vance. So it's just so much fun to think of them all talking about it together.
God,
just like great. Bill did in his morning shots today.
So have you ever read John Gans? He's a progressive writer. As a Substack, The Unpopular Front, it's quite good. So he has this grand theory about fascism, which I find, like all grand theories, like it's half in jest, but it's not really in jest. And he says that there is always a dichotomy in fascist movements, because on one side you have jock D-bags who are like the Mussolini types, right? Who are, like the worst people in the world, who are like the super popular and just want power over everybody, and because you know what that looks like, right? But then the other flavor of fascist is the weird reject losers who, like Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison, have been nursing their grudges and keeping lists of all the people that when they get power, they're going to get revenge on. And Gans is like, this is absolutely typified by the Italian fascism and the German fascism in the 1930s. And JD Vance, like Donald Trump, I think, fits in the Italian fascism, Mussolini type. JD Vance is very much a German fascist type. Like he's the weirdo reject loser who just has grievance against him, which of course is crazy because this guy has been showered with everything that the world has to offer since he was like 22 years old. But hey, that's
but until he was 22.
Oh, right. People look down on him until then.
He was doubted. And so he's been through his bitterness journey, and he's never going to not be that person. And you can just tell.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. VP stakes, because I think it's possible we will have a Harris vice presidential pick before you sit down to do this show without me next Monday.
I think so too.
Well, what are your thoughts?
So, wow, last week was a great 10 years in politics, wasn't it? I'm
Fantastic.
Still with Shapiro, but I'm nervous about people, about anti-Semitism and everything else. But I don't want to be. I want to believe that this country is willing to elect a Black woman and a Jewish vice president. I think he's the best person for it. I am interested that David Axelrod said on Sarah's focus group podcast over the weekend that Roy Cooper, who is a good friend of hers and who she has a good relationship with, and is the governor of North Carolina, and that would be, electorally strategic, whatever, that he has taken himself out of the running, maybe if not publicly, privately. I think that Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, is great where he is, and I don't think he should be vice president. I understand the appeal. Tim Walz is running. He must have been vetted because he's running around on TV everywhere, and he's sort of the man of the moment. Pete has clearly been vetted because he's on TV every hour, doing an amazing job. I'm very pro Pete. I've expressed my concerns about the problems within the Democratic coalition. I hope they've been overcome. What we've been told repeatedly from 2020 on was that Pete Buttigieg would never hold national office for several decades. Maybe he has them because he's so young, because socially conservative Black Democrats would not support a gay man for president. This would be for the vice presidency. Maybe we've moved on. Jim Clyburn said last week he would make a great vice president. That was a wonderful thing to hear. So I'm open to it not being Shapiro and it being someone else, but I don't think it'll be Kelly. And I don't think it'll be Bashir. What do you think?
Well, Waltz, where are you on him?
I wouldn't mind. He looks a little older than Shapiro and Pete, but he has a great way with kind of the middle of the electorate, and he's done well as a progressive with rural parts of Minnesota. So he definitely has a political gift. There's no question. But no, he wouldn't be my first pick.
Yeah, so going back to 2020, I assumed the entire way that Biden was going to pick Kamala Harris as his running mate. Because at the end of the day, she was the safest pick with the most upside, right? And the least downside. So she had been vetted. She had gone through a presidential campaign. He was personally close to her. He really wanted an African-American woman on the ticket. And the answer was, yes, Val Demings was sexy. There were other people who were sexy. But at the end of the day, like, you know, first do no harm on this pick.
Yep.
And the safest thing to do, I'll make a consumer, let me give you a consumer product version of this, right? I don't know how much you care about audiovisual equipment. I don't care about like speakers and home theater and stuff. I care a great deal about these things. And you know, there's a joke I have with my fellow AV nerds, which is that nobody ever got fired for buying Bose, right? Like Bose makes really great audio products. And you could talk yourself into thinking, if you're an AV nerd, well, this Polk speaker is much better. And, you know, but the truth is, if you do like AV procurement for a company and you go and say, yeah, we're just going to get the Bose set up for this, nobody loses their job over that because it's solid, right? It's the safe pick. I think Josh Shapiro is Bose. And just like, you can overthink all these things with, well, there's these other things, but like, he's very popular. He mirrors her experience as Attorney General, right? Which is the important thing is the AG experience, even, you know. As a governor, his hallmark has been pragmatism, which is very important to her, right? Because we're sort of blunting the California progressive rap on her, which is more image than reality anyway, but whatever. Like, it's the safest pick. And because it's the safest pick, it's the smartest pick. I tend to think at this level, safe is smart.
Right, because we have to win. And the other thing that's great is they actually have a real relationship and are friends from when they were attorneys general. And that's real. So that's great. And I've seen him talk about her with excitement. And I can, even without them being physically together, I can sense that the chemistry thing will be there and it won't be a mismatch, which is amazing. Because as you read,
still looks like the future, right? Like it's just like
he's 51.
Again, he's young, all the page turning stuff is baked into it, and it feels like it's an entirely post-COVID, right? Or not entirely post-COVID, but largely a post-COVID. He's a post-Trump figure, right? There's like. She has a little bit of legacy baggage because it feels like she's been around for a while because we knew her at first during the Obama terms. But I don't know, it just feels new. Yeah. And new in ways that are comforting and reassuring, not new in ways that are weird. Like JD Vance is a new figure too. Yes. But in ways which are off-putting and unpleasant. Exactly. He's new dystopian. Yeah. He is the writer of the foreword of Kevin Roberts' Heritage Foundation Project 2025 blueprint. I mean, he's just revealing this kind of new threat that we didn't, that we're just coming to terms with. And Josh Shapiro is a new strain of Democrat, which is, I'm a pragmatist. I govern, I brag about solutions. I have brought to my constituents. I just like to get shit done. And right? I don't go, get shit done. And I don't run around getting into cultural battles online or on TV shows. I want to just bring this for people who don't pay attention as closely as you and I do. So I wrote about this thing about JD Vance and a podcast interview he did in which he said that his one piece of advice to Donald Trump in 2024 was that Trump should fire the entire federal bureaucracy, replace it with Trump loyalists, and then when the Supreme Court ruled that he couldn't do it, Trump should defy the Supreme Court. So this is nuts. Yeah. But it isn't just that it's nuts, it's like the context of it is nuts. So he did this on a podcast with this guy named Jack Murphy. Jack Murphy is one of these super weirdo manosphere guys. He's bald and he's got a very exciting beard with lots of feelings in it. And, everything is men. I'm so tough and men. And also, Jack Murphy is a guy who turns out is a literal cuckold. Again, not kink shaming, just reporting. He's into that sort of thing. He's written about how exciting it is. Who has done some porn in which he was pegging, which again, totally cool. Not judging him. I'm happy that he feels free to do what he likes. But it's weird, right? And he's part of this Claremont stuff. And in the course of their interview, when he's talking about, you know, like the thinkers he admires, he's like, oh, I really like Curtis Yarvin. Stop what you're doing. Go just on the YouTube bar, do Curtis Yarvin and Tucker Carlson, and see Curtis Yarvin's interview with Tucker Carlson. And you just have a look at what sort of, again, that dude is weird AF.
Yeah.
And that's the milieu of JD Vance's pedigree. Like that's the soup he was swimming in. He's not like a state level elected guy the way Shapiro was, who spends all his time thinking about, well, we got this bridge that collapsed. How are we going to fix that? You know, it's very odd. Very.
I have a question for you. Do you think that Kamala's VP pick is going to end up debating JD Vance, or do you think that there will be no VP debate because there will be no presidential debate, or do you think Trump is going to come back around knowing that this is the most weenie move ever to try to dodge a debate with Kamala Harris, and he has to debate her, and then Vance debates Shapiro? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I could see it either way. How about you? Do you have a strong lean? I mean, I can see either pathway.
I believe that Trump knows that he will be vaporized if he on a stage debating Kamala Harris. So if I were him, I would avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
So at the same time, you think, oh, well, you can't. That's such a bad hit for her to be able to campaign on that. And then and then he can't have Vance debate Shapiro.
If he's ducking Kamala, Vance can't debate Shapiro.
Then they're not. And then so the Democratic ticket runs around saying, come on, scaredy cats. You can't come out and you can't debate us. I mean, that is such a liability. Then I feel, oh, how could they give that up? You know, I don't know.
I could see Trump. So I could see that. I think it's a very realistic scenario. But I could also see Trump being pragmatic and realistic. And if he feels like he's in a place where things are not going great for him, that he has to roll the dice, right? And roll the dice that you catch Harris on a bad day. You do have tape on her, right? They do have tape that they can look at to see when she's done well and when she's done poorly. Like when Tulsi Gabbard went at her in one of the Democratic debates, it wasn't a great exchange for Harris. So he can, you know, like it wouldn't be crazy for him to think that he could get lucky, right? And especially that maybe he could, you know, bulldoze her, or I could see it, right? If he feels like he has a chance at the election, then maybe don't roll the dice. But if he thinks he's on track to lose, I think maybe at that point he decides he has to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But maybe not.
I think bulldozing her would be a huge mistake. Because what was so fascinating about the Sarah's swing voter focus groups after the Biden meltdown in the debate was the criticism they had of Trump. They weren't so blinded by the meltdown to not pick up on. They said he was BSing. They said he was repeating himself. That that he didn't have any substantive answers. I mean, that's what was so interesting to me, is that he also had a bad debate. So it would be, and bulldozing a woman would be, people will notice that. But anyway, you're right. If he's desperate, I guess he'll have to. Well,
and he's also, again, the things that people care about, the split screen of this like fleshy aging guy who is like held together with, you know, God knows what's happening with the hair. Right. And like, he doesn't look great. He only looked okay compared to Joe Biden. And the split screen with, you know, young, especially if she's leading in the polls, right? The young, energetic, together person who looks great on camera, who is ahead in the polls. That split screen is tough for him. And he understands the power of those images, I think.
The other thing we haven't mentioned that I didn't even think about until last week, because I knew she had a great smile, but I didn't know that she was really happy, because I think she didn't she wasn't very suited to be number two. So that's why she was nervous and seemed to some people inauthentic. Now she seems confident and warm, and she seems happy because she's selling herself. She's not selling Joe Biden, and she's not the number two and all the rules that come with that. But, Sarah has remarked on this, that she has this sort of element of joy. And that's what I didn't realize until sort of the middle of the week. I was like, she's so happy.
Yeah.
And there is a power to that, right? That people just are attracted, whether unconsciously or subconsciously, to that. And that would be another devastating part of the split screen, because she's not goofy. She's serious, but happy. Happy, but serious. And that's a really bad contrast with it.
This is a truism of politics. The campaign that is having the most fun is usually the campaign that's winning. Now, this is tautology to a certain extent. Like the campaign that is winning is having the most fun because, of course, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, like the Trump campaign was having a great deal of fun all through the convention, right? And this was obvious. Again, when we did the convention live streams and Sam Stein was in the hall talking to delegates and stuff.
Yeah.
They thought that it was impossible for Trump to lose. They were on absolute cruise control.
Yeah.
And the world has just changed. And I think they understand it. I think they don't like it. I think they particularly don't like it because of the candidate they are facing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be any more explicit than that. But I think there would be a great deal of resentment for Donald Trump to lose to a black woman.
I put it in my piece. I got specific.
Yeah.
Really what he does not want.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe things could, and this is the other thing, right? While the election was Trump versus Biden, it felt like a baton death march.
Completely.
We sat around thinking, oh my God, we got to do this for 4 more months. Are you kidding me? How is this going to happen? And now it feels like it's a sprint.
Yes.
Now it has all the energy of well, crap, let's just run all the way through the tape on this one. And that excitement and that eagerness for the next 100 days, it's a huge, huge thing.
It is. And the value of new. It's a new experience. So people are curious. What'll happen next? What's going to happen next? Yeah. The unexpected.
All the reality TV vibes are now on the Harris side.
Yeah.
Well,
things are not terrible.
I won't see you next week, and I could say, hey, good luck, America. Let's do this thing.